welcome back to bread class. The auto lease period is now over. It's been a while. I didn't really keep track of what time it was when I started, but it's been like an hour or two. So now it's time to mix in the salt and the levain or sourdough starter. The recommended kind of levain to use in an artisan sourdough like this is called a liquid levain. That means it's equal parts flour and water with the yeast culture in it. So anyway, I like to do 2% salt and then however much sourdough starter. I only have like 150 grams, so that's about 15%, so that'll be fine. So anyway, what I'm going to do is sprinkle the salt over the surface of the dough. It's not really a dough yet, but you know what I mean. And then I'm actually gonna like moisten it a little bit because it'll just help the salt like dissolve and work into the dough. So I just like kind of get my hands wet and dribble over it. If you have like a spray bottle, that works really well for this. Like purists would say that I'm messing with the hydration percentage by doing this, and now I don't know what the hydration is, but I don't really care. So anyway, then I'm gonna put my starter in. Have it in this little cup. And what you wanna do is kind of spread it over the surface of the dough and like, sorry, the lighting is terrible. Dimple it in with your fingers like that for a little bit to just kind of start mixing it into the dough. And then I'm also going to kind of like fold the dough over it, so just kind of like working everything in together. You want to try not to like stab the dough with your actual nails. Be gentle. Basically, you'll notice now that when you left this dough, it was just like a goopy, shaggy mess. And now it's like a stretchy dough. So that's kind of, the really cool thing about the auto lease is that all the gluten's already forming. Anyway, it's called the Rubaud method. It's probably like Rubaud, I don't know, I'm not French. But anyway, you want to be as gentle as possible with the dough because, you've let it create the gluten and you just don't want to tear that gluten ever. Now, so anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one hand and I'm going to do like this scooping motion, kind of like keeping the dough up and under itself. And I'm going to do that for a couple, and like kind of going around the bowl. So I'm going to do that for a little bit. So the dough, it's basically just kind of like massaging it into itself and helping it kind of equalize all of the different elements that are in it now. So I kind of like do it a little bit and turn the bowl, as you can see, hopefully. And again, that sun is really bright, but so in the bowl, I'm kind of doing this in slow motion. And you can see how like nice and gluteny this dough is. It's not sticking to the bowl and stuff. So, and feel free to use your soft scraper to make sure that you don't have any chunks of dough sticking to like the sides or bottom of the bowl. I'm just making sure the dough is like completely loose and free. And I'm going to continue to do this mixing for like 5 minutes. And then I'm going to let the dough sit and rest for a while, maybe like 5 to 15 minutes. Then I'm going to come back and do this a little bit more. So what we're doing is, like I said, we're mixing the starter and the salt in. We're also incorporating a small amount of air into the dough. and that's going to help create, jumpstart, you know, the structure of allowing it to have a crumb, an open crumb. If you see your dough starting to tear, then stop immediately. If the gluten gets overworked and too tight and starts to tear, you're now just hurting the bread instead of mixing, doing a good job. But it's not the worst thing, because if you just let the bread sit, the gluten will relax, and then you can come back to it. So just keep a lookout. Always be feeling and paying attention to how your dough's looking. And the more you make bread, the more you will get a feel for this stuff, and be able to understand how to work with the dough on that day. So I think this is good for now. I'm just kind of making sure it's nice and free from the sides of the bowl. Then I'm going to let it sit and mix it up a little more in a few minutes. Okay, welcome back to Breadland. It's been about 10 minutes since I did my first round of mixing. I don't think it needs a lot more, but I'm just going to do a little for fun. One thing I forgot to say earlier is that whenever you're making bread, it's a good idea to keep a bowl of water around. If your hands are ever sticking to the dough, or if you have like flour all over yourself and everything's just sticky, you know, get your hands clean and then dunk them in the water. And then whenever you touch the bread with wet hands, you won't stick to it. So just know that. So I'm going to do a little dunk and then, you know, do my mixing just for a minute. Honestly, I feel like that's good. I feel like the dough feels pretty consistent. So I'm just gonna make sure it's like nice and neat in the bowl. And then now we're starting what's called the bulk fermentation period.